Hello, everyone. Welcome to another installment of the Tula Vrddhi lecture series. Today, I'll be talking about adaptation of neural drive. Thanks for joining. Once again, I'm Jeff Slaughter. I'm a doctor. I've spent 3 years in OBGYN residency and have stepped away in the pursuit of happiness. Here to share my wisdoms with all of y'all. So thanks for the platform. Today is January 6th, 2022. It is the anniversary of this infamous day and event. Prayers to all those that lost their lives and who suffered in this tragedy. But, you know, it's 2022, and we're going to flip this whole thing. I have no financial disclosures. I have no institutional affiliations. Get this volume right. There we go. All right, and then check in on my progress. Day 28 was yesterday. I am down 11 pounds, 2.6% body fat. Yeah, all in all, just kind of crushing. Metabolic age down to 36 years old, started at 38. Big changes this week is I started doing yoga. I got a pull-up bar yesterday, so started messing around with that. Also got a pair of rings and started doing some knee push-ups with those. So creeping into phase 2 a little bit of the regimen. Here's the sexy body pic. Looking a little bit less dad bodish, so we'll take it. All right, flexibility and strength. I will submit that these are the same thing. This flexibility requires a lot of strength. And this strength requires a lot of flexibility. Let's talk about stretch and the sensation of stretch and what that looks like on a physiological level. These images are coming out of this textbook that I'm using to study for my Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist Certification, CSCS. I showed this image in a prior video, but this is a motor unit. Involves the motor neuron that is coming from the central nervous system, aka your brain and or spinal cord, and then sending a signal to the muscle to contract. Now, the plot thickens. We're looking at a muscle spindle, which is a part of a muscle, and the muscle spindle responds to stretch. When the muscle is stretched, the muscle spindle is stretched, a neuron has a path to the central nervous system, spinal cord in this case, and then another neuron comes back to the muscle outside of the muscle spindle, and that contracts the muscle. So in a stretch, there's a contraction. Another layer here. This is called the Golgi tendon organ. Now, this is located in the tendon at the ends of a muscle, where when the muscle is experiencing a lot of load, as in it's contracting a ton, that's putting tension on the tendon, stretch on the tendon. And in that process, a neuron sends a signal to the spinal column or the brain, the central nervous system, which then responds to the muscle by inhibiting muscle contraction. So when you are contracting maximally, putting maximum tension on a tendon, that reflexively causes that muscle to relax at this peak tension point. How do we adapt that? Because that's what this is all about. Here is something that's a massive acronym: proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, PNF. This is essentially stretching. Now, this particular brand of stretching is being studied within the physiology realm of study these days. And there's several mechanisms that are involved, and they're all, looks like they help, and yada yada. It's not particularly important to know the details, because we don't even really know the details. Oh, shout out to these people. They made it hard for me, but I did find out where they're at. Salem, Oregon, at Willamette University. Shout out Willamette. In this review article, they basically say that research indicates that PNF stretching is effective for improving and maintaining range of motion, increasing muscular strength and power, increasing athletic performance, especially after exercise. And obviously you need to do it regularly to get the benefits, like anything in life. So what does this look like? Basically combining passive stretching with isometric contractions, which basically means contracting without moving the length of the muscle. Encourage flexibility, coordination. It gives you quick gains in range of motion, and that is what I am experiencing in my experimentation in the Tula Vrddhi regimen. Better biomechanics, reduces fatigue, and helps prevent overuse injuries. And I'm living that in my yoga class, where I walked in after the second day and they're trying to get me to be a yoga instructor. So, what does this look like by the current standards? Here's one example: passive stretch for 15 seconds, and then contracting a muscle in stillness against a force for 10 seconds, and then relaxing for 10 to 15 seconds in a passive stretch, and doing that a couple of times. Try it out. And I will show some videos, demonstrations that'll be up on the YouTube page in the next few days, kind of doing some of this stuff. All right, let's talk about cold and heat exposure and what that does for flexibility and strength. Here is a paper called The Effect of Heat and Cold on Tendon Flexibility and Force to Flex the Human Knee. This is out of Loma Linda and Azusa Pacific. Shout out SoCal. All right. So in this study, they basically had a handful of male and female subjects that were exposed to, room temperature versus cold with ice packs versus heat packs. And, this was applied over a variety of time to the quadriceps and the knee. And then they measured the tendon extensibility with a KT2000. And then the force for flexing the knee was measured by passive movement being applied to the knee through 30 degrees, blah, 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 blah. And then, they basically are saying how flexible the ACL and the PCL, the anterior and the posterior cruciate ligament, how much flexibility increased and the force needed to move the knee. And they showed that the force needed to move the knee decreased with heat by about 25% compared to cold application. So they're like, yeah, heat's great. And they're like, but maybe cold is bad. Good, bad. I submit it's more nuanced than that. So here's this KT2000 thing. Pretty cool. Pretty nifty. All right, next paper. Effects of hot and cold water immersion and modified proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. There's that PNF. Flexibility exercise on hamstring length. That is a mouthful of a title. These people were out of Nova Scotia, Canada. Here. And let's take a look at what they found out. So basically, they wanted to compare the hamstring length resulting from PNF in combination with cold water immersion, hot water immersion, and stretching alone. So not together. They had, a small number of subjects. They exposed them to these different hot, cold stretching treatments for some time. Then they measured the maximum active hip flexion on the first and fifth days of these treatments. And what they found was that basically all three groups had significant improvements in hamstring length. However, no significant differences occurred among the groups. So they concluded that no advantage was apparent in using complete hot or cold immersion to increase hamstring length in healthy subjects. So they're like, stretching's great, cold's great, heat's great. And just so you can see like how much greater, they had a mean increase in hip flexion angle by 23.5%, 25.6%, 25.9%. So that's pretty respectable. This is the flexibility training apparatus. Gosh, don't put that in the OBGYN office because people be running back to the parking lot. My gosh, that thing is terrifying. So what about heat plus cold plus PNF plus some time? That study does not exist yet. That's what I'm doing with Tula Vrddhi, and I will tell you, I'm close to the splits, guys, in a month. So time will tell, but knock on wood, next video I do, the thumbnail is going to be me in a splits. All right, adaptation of neural drive is the good stuff. So this paper, fatigue is a brain-derived emotion that regulates the exercise behavior to ensure the protection of whole body homeostasis. This Timothy David Noakes out of Cape Town, South Africa. Thank you for your work. So this is the traditional view of, this is the governor model of brain, body, mind, body regulation, where the brain runs the show, the heart and the brain kind of talk back together in cardiovascular strain, fatigue starts happening, and then you get all these downstream effects that eventually shut the whole thing down. We got mitochondria here. That's the powerhouse in the cell. That's where the energy units, ATP, is actually produced in each one of our cells. We're talking, muscle fatigue, limit blood flow to muscle, mitochondria limiting blood flow to muscle fibers, causing blah, 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 blah. Lactic acid accumulates in the muscle, therefore causing, decreased maximum muscle contraction. And then that, limits blood flow to the muscle, and limiting coronary blood flow, less oxygen to the heart, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. That's the old school way. The new school way is this. It is a respect for the mind, centrally acting performance modifiers. As any athlete can attest to, your mood, your mental fatigue, your sleep, your level of motivation, degree of self-belief, superstitious beliefs, monetary reward, presence of competition, competitors, knowledge of endpoint, amphetamines, caffeine, pseudoephedrine, modafinil, other drugs, placebo, body cooling, carbohydrate mouth rinsing, prior experience, visual feedback. All this stuff feeds into your mind, which is housed in your brain and your spinal cord, and it allows you to dip into your gut, your reserve, your second wind, your third wind, all of that. It is a powerful thing to have belief, sleep, confidence, knowing what you're doing, having been there before. Anybody who's been in sports, or not even in sports, anybody who just has to compete in this world can attest to the power of preparation, basically, being prepared. And you can adapt this whole thing. Mind over matter. Pac knows. All right, so, here's the regimen. Right back to it. If you can incorporate PNF and adaptation of neural drive by doing all those things that you already know you're supposed to be doing to phase 0, phase 1, you're going to get silly gains. That's a fact. I want it for everybody. All right. Time for shoutouts. I got to give a shout out to Jennifer. She is my PNF mentor, because she was telling me about this as I was getting a massage at Massage Envy down the street from me. And, this is a technique that's used in sports massage. It's all the same. And if you can incorporate it into any aspect of your life, we talked about it in the body, but, there's applications all over the place for this stuff. So thank you, Jennifer. Shout out to my parents, Michael and Veronica, for always believing in me. Because we go back to the neural drive stuff, right? Belief, people believing in you, that's everything. Forever grateful. Love you guys. I heard this from one of my yoga instructors. It said, shaking is where the growth lies. That is deep. That has layers of wisdom to peel back that onion. And this is a picture I took from Point Tamales in Point Reyes just last week, 2 weeks ago. I'm with my dad. And this is what 2022 is. It is ours. It is sunny. It is the beach. And it is glorious. I'll leave y'all with that. Have a great day.